Once upon a time, in a faraway land called Ama Okoro, there was a wise king named Eze Udo. King Udo was growing old and worried because he didn't have a son to take over his throne. He needed to find someone who was kind and cared for others to be the next king. So, he sent a message all over the land inviting young men to come for an interview. The only rule was simple. The person must love other people very much. Every young man in the kingdom was excited. One of them was a poor boy named Chima, who lived in a small village called Umuike. Umuike was a lovely village with green fields, tall palm trees, and small huts made of mud and straw. Chima was known for his kindness and hard work, but he didn't have much money. He really wanted to become the king, not for the riches, but to make sure everyone in Ama Okoro was treated fairly and kindly, especially the poor and needy. After many days of hard work, Chima finally got everything he needed. With new clothes and supplies, he started his journey. He walked for many days. One day, as he was getting close to the palace, he saw an old beggar sitting by the side of the road. The beggar was shivering in the cold and wearing torn clothes. The beggar stretched out his hand and said, "Please, help me. I am very cold and hungry." Many young men passed by the beggar on their way to the palace, but none stopped to help. Some of them even insulted the beggar. "Get away, old man! You are dirty and smell bad," they said. The beggar looked very sad. Chima felt very sad for the beggar. Without thinking twice, he took off his new clothes and gave them to the beggar. He also gave the beggar the food he had brought for himself. "Thank you, kind boy. May you be blessed," the beggar said, his eyes shining with gratitude. Chima smiled and replied, "You're welcome. Stay warm and take care." Chima felt good about helping, but now he only had his old dirty clothes to wear to the palace. He took a deep breath and decided to go to the palace anyway. When he arrived, he was amazed by the palace. It was huge and grand, with tall, shiny walls, beautiful gardens, and golden decorations everywhere. One of the king's helpers, dressed in fine clothes, showed him to a big hall where he could rest and clean up. When Chima arrived at the palace, he saw other young men who also came for the interview. They were all dressed in their finest clothes. Among all of them, Chima was the only one in dirty, worn-out clothes because he had given his new ones to the beggar. The other young men laughed at him and said, "Look at him. He thinks he can be king in those rags." Chima felt a bit sad, but stayed quiet. He knew he had done the right thing. Finally, it was time to meet the king. But they were all surprised when they saw the old beggar walk into the palace. It turned out that the beggar they had insulted was actually the king himself. The young men murmured among themselves, confused and anxious. Suddenly, the beggar stood up, and it became clear that he was actually King Udo in disguise. The king smiled and said, "Yes, I was the beggar you insulted on your way here. I pretended to be poor to see who among you had a kind heart." The young men were shocked and felt very embarrassed. They realized they had failed the king's test. Then the king looked at the back of the hall and called out, "Hey, you there, come forward." Chima nervously stepped forward. The king smiled warmly at him and said, "This is the only young man who is qualified to rule this kingdom because he has a good heart. Despite his own needs, he gave away his clothes and food to help someone he thought was a poor beggar. That is the kind of leader we need." The other young men looked at Chima with admiration and respect. They realized that true greatness comes from kindness and compassion. The moral of the story is that being kind and caring is very important. Even though Chima was poor, he helped the beggar with all he had. This act of kindness showed that he was a good person, and that made him worthy of becoming the king. You see, in our lives, we often get chances to help others. When we choose to be kind and help people, we make their lives better and also feel good inside. Remember, God is always watching, and you never know which act of kindness will bring you great rewards. Let us all try to be kind and caring, because that is what makes us truly great. By helping others without expecting anything in return, we can make the world a better place to live. A heart full of love and kindness is the best gift we can give to others, and it will always be important no matter how much the world changes. Like and subscribe for more Folktale. See you in the next one.